What if I told you that an entire country's internet was taken down? Not by a government, not by a military, but by one person sitting at a computer? In 2022, North Korea's websites vanished from the internet overnight. No missiles, no warnings, just silence. At first, the world assumed it was cyber war between nations. But the truth was far more shocking. This is the unbelievable story of how one hacker allegedly brought a nuclear-armed nation offline, why he did it, and what it reveals about how fragile modern power really is. In January 2022, something strange happened. North Korea's internet presence began to disappear. One by one, its websites stopped responding. Government portals, propaganda pages, official email servers, gone. For hours, then days, the outside world watched as a nuclear-armed nation appeared to vanish from the global internet. At first, experts assumed the obvious: a rival government, a covert cyber operation, retaliation for missile tests, some kind of classified digital warfare between states. But then an unexpected claim surfaced. A single hacker stepped forward and said, "I did this. No military, no intelligence agency, no cyber command. Just one individual who decided that if governments wouldn't act, he would." This is the story of how North Korea's internet was allegedly taken down by one person, why it happened, how it was possible, and what it reveals about the fragile digital world we all depend on. To understand why this moment shocked cybersecurity experts, we first need to understand something crucial about North Korea and the internet. Despite what many people assume, North Korea does have an internet connection to the outside world, but it is extremely limited. The vast majority of North Korean citizens do not access the global internet at all. Instead, they use a closed internal network called Kwangmyong, which is heavily censored and completely isolated from the rest of the world. The real internet, websites that outsiders can visit, is used mostly for propaganda, research institutions, foreign-facing businesses, and government communication. And here's the key detail. North Korea's entire public internet infrastructure is incredibly small. We're talking about a tiny number of IP addresses, a handful of servers, limited routing paths through just a few neighboring countries. In cybersecurity terms, this means one thing: centralization. And centralization creates vulnerability. On the outside, North Korea projects the image of strength, secrecy, and technological capability. But behind the curtain, its global internet footprint is fragile, outdated, and poorly defended by modern standards. That fragility would soon be exposed. Months before the outage, Western cybersecurity researchers had been reporting increased activity from North Korean hacking groups. These groups, often linked to what is commonly referred to as the Lazarus Group, are accused of cyber espionage, ransomware attacks, and even large-scale cryptocurrency theft. Their targets included banks, corporations, research labs, and individual security researchers. One of those researchers would later become central to this story. The hacker who claimed responsibility used the pseudonym P4X. According to public reporting, he was a cybersecurity expert who had previously been targeted by North Korean hackers. His systems were attacked, his research infrastructure disrupted, and according to him, the response from authorities was silence. No follow-up, no meaningful investigation, no consequences. To P4X, it felt like being attacked by a ghost, one backed by a government with no accountability. So he made a decision. Instead of waiting for justice, he decided to demonstrate just how exposed North Korea's internet really was. Not by stealing data, not by spying, but by shutting the lights off entirely. In January 2022, North Korea's public-facing internet began to fail. From the outside, it looked like a total blackout. Monitoring systems showed that North Korean IP addresses were no longer responding. Websites timed out. Email servers went dark. For analysts who track global connectivity, this was immediately alarming. Entire countries don't just disappear from the internet without a reason. Speculation exploded. Some believed China had pulled the plug. Others suspected the United States or South Korea. Some thought it was an internal shutdown ordered by Pyongyang itself. But behind the scenes, P4X claims he was quietly executing a plan he had spent months preparing. According to his own account, he mapped North Korea's internet infrastructure in detail. He identified outdated servers, weak points, systems that had never been properly patched or hardened against modern attacks. Then he used automated tools to overwhelm those systems, not with sophistication, but with persistence. The alleged attack relied on repeated denial of service techniques, requests flooding servers faster than they could respond, critical routing points overwhelmed, limited infrastructure stretched past its breaking point. And because North Korea's internet footprint is so small, there was no redundancy to absorb the pressure. When the servers went down, there was nowhere for the traffic to reroute. The result was silence. For days, North Korea's global internet presence remained offline or unstable. And the world was left with a disturbing realization. A single individual may have been able to disrupt an entire nation's digital connection to the outside world. Eventually, services slowly returned. Websites came back online. Email servers resumed operation. Officially, there was no explanation, no public acknowledgement, no statement, no admission of weakness. But the story didn't end there. Months later, investigative journalists connected the dots. Interviews were conducted, technical details examined, and P4X's identity was eventually revealed publicly as Alejandro Caceres, a Colombian-American cybersecurity researcher. The claim was no longer anonymous, and that's when the ethical debate truly began. Was this hacktivism? Was it vigilantism? Or was it simply cybercrime? On one side, supporters argued that this was a demonstration, not an attack. No data was stolen, no civilians were harmed. The internal network used by North Korean citizens was unaffected. Only the outward-facing propaganda and government sites were disrupted. To them, it was a symbolic act, meant to expose hypocrisy and vulnerability. On the other side, critics warned that allowing individuals to take down national infrastructure sets a dangerous precedent. If one person can do this to North Korea, what stops someone from doing it to any small country, corporation, or city? The line between protest and cyber warfare suddenly felt uncomfortably thin. This is where the story becomes bigger than North Korea. Because this incident isn't just about one hacker or one country, it's about the modern world. The internet is often described as resilient, decentralized, and robust. But in reality, much of it depends on fragile systems, outdated infrastructure, and trust. Many countries, especially isolated or sanctioned ones, run their networks with minimal resources. They rely on aging hardware, limited connectivity, few external partners. That makes them vulnerable not just to governments, but to individuals. And while North Korea is an extreme example, it is not unique. Hospitals, power grids, transportation systems, financial networks. All of them depend on digital infrastructure that, if targeted, can collapse faster than we like to admit. This incident also highlights a growing problem in cybersecurity: asymmetry. A government may spend billions on weapons, surveillance, and defense, but a skilled individual with time, knowledge, and motivation can still cause disproportionate disruption. In cyberspace, power doesn't always scale with size. It scales with access and motivation. North Korea itself understands this better than most. Its own cyber units have been accused of stealing hundreds of millions of dollars through hacking campaigns. From bank heists to crypto thefts, these operations show how digital attacks can bypass traditional military strength, which makes the irony of this story impossible to ignore. A country accused of widespread cyber aggression may have fallen victim to the very tactics it uses against others. But there is another layer to this story that often gets overlooked: the North Korean people. While the global internet outage made headlines, it had little effect on daily life inside the country. Most citizens never noticed. They were never connected to begin with. And that reality raises an uncomfortable question. If an entire country can disappear from the internet, and most of its people don't even realize it, What does being online really mean? Who is the internet actually for? In North Korea's case, the internet is not a public utility. It's a tool of the state, a channel for messaging, diplomacy, and influence. Taking it down didn't silence the population. It silenced the government's voice to the outside world. And that may be why the incident mattered so much. Because in an age where visibility is power, disappearing, even briefly, reveals vulnerability. In the aftermath, North Korea quietly restored its systems, likely patched some weaknesses, possibly rerouted infrastructure. But as with many things in cybersecurity, defenses only improve after exposure. And the exposure in this case was undeniable. So what are we left with? A story where a lone hacker claims to have taken down a nation's internet. A reminder that digital infrastructure is more fragile than it looks. A warning that the gap between individual capability and state power is shrinking. And a question that has no easy answer. Should individuals ever take justice into their own hands online? Or does that path lead to chaos? Because if one person can do this, someone else eventually will. And next time, the target might not be a distant, isolated country. It might be closer than we think. If this story changed how you think about the internet, cybersecurity, or global power, make sure to like this video. It helps more than you realize. Subscribe to the channel for deep dives into real stories that reveal the hidden forces shaping our world. And comment below. Do you think this hacker was justified, or did he cross a dangerous line? Let's talk about it.